we're going to talk about where do you spend your time in order to have the highest impact on the future of your firm around three areas: revenue growth, profit growth, and free time growth. And I think those are really the three most important metrics when it comes to growing your firm and your future. And I want to also start with a little bit of a recap of everything that we went through yesterday. So I'm going to go over to the camera over here, and I want to talk about where we spent some of our time yesterday. How many of you remember, give me a yes in the chat if you remember the lawyer legacy staircase. I just want to see how many of you remember this from yesterday, right? We talked about the step-by-step process of getting into that owner entrepreneur category where your firm is truly running itself through a leadership team, and you are now managing your vision rather than trading your day-to-day time in the firm, right? We also talked about the law firm growth acceleration model, which is really the only way to grow your firm. If you want to ascend that staircase, you have to invest your time in areas that are going to increase your lead generation, increase the quality of your intake process, increase the self-management of your team, which we're going to talk a little bit about tomorrow, and increase your profit process, right? Why do I keep using the word process? Because the way that your firm runs itself, and instead of just being a self-managing firm, but ultimately becomes a self-multiplying firm, is through process. You need multiple scalable lead generation processes, multiple scalable intake processes, multiple scalable team management and hiring processes, and multiple scalable profit processes to be in abundance. Someone typed the word abundance in the chat. To be in abundance in all four of these areas, where you're flooded with leads, you're converting too many cases, right fit cases, right? Too many A-player candidates want to work for your firm. How many of you want those problems? Put a me in the chat if you want those problems. Too many A-players applying to work with me. Too many signed cases. Too many leads, right? These are the problems that you want to have. And that's when you've really cracked the code on the law firm growth acceleration model. And then we talked about what I think is something that is probably most important, is how to eliminate mindset obstacles, right? And I want to actually start with this as a concept. We talked about, everyone yesterday, we talked about vision a little bit yesterday. And how many of you feel like you're a little bit more clear on what you want to create 3 years from today? Put a me in the chat if you feel like you're a little bit more clear on what you want to create 3 years from today. So there is a lot of stuff that is going to get in your way. Primarily where? Who wants to let me know? Where are the main things that are going to get in your way on that vision? Within your own mind. So what I want to spend a moment talking about is a little bit about, I'm going to go over here. I want to talk just a little bit about how I conceptualized through my own process of eliminating my own mindset obstacles. And it's through a process that I call mental relabeling. So when I was diagnosed with anxiety disorder, ADHD, and hypomanic, I was seeing a psychologist in Center City, Philadelphia. This is at the peak of my suffering. I had just had my first panic attack. It was when I was in college. Called my mom, breaking down with tears, and I told her that I needed help. So I found a psychologist at Penn, which is a hospital in Philadelphia, and I ended up seeing him for years. And in my first year, it was so difficult accepting what I actually was going through. And until I actually had a label on it, I actually was put through this test where they had me look at all these visuals, and it was like, I forget what it's called, but the outcome was conclusive around these 3 diagnoses. And And for me, I did not immediately react with empowerment and positivity. I reacted with, there is something severely wrong with me, and I'm going to be like this for the rest of my life. And what's really interesting is when people ask me, what am I most grateful for? Well, I always answer with two things. I'm most grateful for my family's bankruptcy, and I'm most grateful for being diagnosed anxiety disorder and hypomanic. And the reason I'm most grateful for these two things is because they allowed me to accept reality in a way I had never done prior to that point in my life. I had always avoided reality, and once I had these formal labels around my condition, I was able to actually become introspective around these things and create my own personal development plan. So I started doing my own research after 2 years of seeing the psychologist. I bought this program called the Linden Method, which is this anxiety elimination program thing. It was actually an information product that I spent a couple $1,000s on online. I was sold something through a Facebook ad, which is pretty funny because a lot of you probably are attending this event because you saw our Facebook ads. And at that point in time, I thought, wow, it's crazy to me that someone sold something to me that could have a huge impact on my life, right? And so I bought this program. I was so skeptical. And when I got about halfway through it, I started practicing what was in this book. It was really like a book and then video trainings to go along with it. And it told me to start diverting my mind anytime an anxious thought came up. And I started diverting my mind and distracting myself from these anxious thoughts that I had. And it actually worked. And I started feeling less anxiety. And then I picked up this book called The Hypomanic Edge. And the Hypomanic Edge book broke down the fact that in this study that they did at the beginning of the book, Hypomanic Edge, and for those of you who don't know, hypomania is on the bipolar spectrum. It's the lowest level on the spectrum where you basically have manic surges, but not hallucinatory mania, right? You have, basically extra dopamine that gets released into your brain every now and then, right? And when I read the book, The Hypomanic Edge, what it taught me was that in this study that they did, 100% of entrepreneurs that were surveyed, in the beginning of the book, they break this down, 100% of entrepreneurs that were surveyed had hypomania that they did in the beginning of this book. And that was the first time I thought, well, maybe this hypomania thing can actually be a gift, right? And I started looking at, once I learned that about hypomania, I was like, wait, maybe this thing that was once a label that I was pigeonholing myself with is actually my gift. It could be something that could make me great in achieving some of my visions in business and in life, right? And that same thing I applied to my anxiety. And I started saying, well, how is anxiety a good thing? Well, anxiety means I'm looking around corners. Anxiety means I'm asking myself what if questions all the time. So if I just replace what comes after the word what if, and I replace these words, what if someone laughs at me while I'm public speaking, because I had public speaking anxiety, which is funny to think of now. And I would think, okay, what if someone laughs at me when I speak? I replace that with, what if I crush my speech? What would need to happen if I were to crush my speech and to be the best speech I've ever given in my life? Can I get a yes in the chat that everyone understands that mental relabel that I put right there? I embraced my anxiety as the ability to ask myself, what if? The ability to look around corners. The ability to never be satisfied. The ability to over-prepare for things. Right? I looked at my hypomania as, oh, I get extra excited about things. How cool is that? I looked at my anxiety as the ability to look around corners. I started looking at my ADHD as AAD. Instead of attention deficit disorder, I started calling it attention abundance disorder, right? wow, I can't believe I can focus on 5 things at once and task switch. Like, most people can't get stuff done doing that, but because I have ADHD, I'm able to focus on 7 things at once and task switch, right? So I started looking at these things that were once ailments, and I started relabeling them in my own mind through the process of mental relabeling, as all of these negatives are actually my reasons for success in my dreams and in entrepreneurship. So if we go back over here, this is why I'm breaking this down for you. Everyone here has head trash that we're dealing with when it comes to ascending the lawyer legacy staircase. There's all these negative things that you think are holding you down and why you can't do it, right? I don't have the money to invest in my practice. I can't find A players. I can't hire the right people. There's not enough attorneys in my market. There's nothing works in marketing. Whatever is going through your mind. How many of you can relate to any of those things I just said? Put a me in the chat if you can relate to any of the things I just bulleted, right? These are normal thoughts, right? The question is, are you going to accept those thoughts as your reality like I did when I was suffering? Or are you going to turn those thoughts on their head and turn them into your reasons for figuring it out? It's your choice. Are you going to take option 1, accepting them as your fate, or option 2, turning them into your reasons for success? Give me a 1 or a 2 in the chat. Now I want to see how many of you actually type 2 into the chat right now. This is probably the most important thing that we could possibly talk about right now, because it's not your perceived reality that is going to limit you in 2024. It's how you deal with that reality. So we talked about this yesterday, and I just want a commitment from everyone that today we're going to show you the brass tacks ways to overcome these obstacles through tactics. But no tactics matter if you don't eliminate the mindset trash that's holding you back from getting to that owner and entrepreneur category. The ability to let go of your casework, to let go of your intake, to let go of micromanagement. Okay? I need a commitment from you that you are going to let go and commit to a bigger future. Can I get a commit in the chat if you're with me on this? Because I can show you all the tactics in the world, but I've been through this with so many attorneys I can't even count. You're not going to implement it unless the mindset trash is pushed to the side and relabeled. It just is what it is. You're going to go back to what you did before this event, unless there's an emotional anchor. So thank you for everyone committing to this. So I want everyone to get abundantly clear right now on what is your 3-year vision. And I want to ask you, yes or no in the chat, how many of you have a printed PDF version of your law firm's 3-year vision, yes or no in the chat? A printed PDF that can be made public to every employee in your law firm that shows them exactly where you're going in 3 years. Okay. I'm not seeing a lot of yeses. And for those of you who said no, congratulations. You didn't learn this in law school, but you just accepted something. You just accepted that your vision is not documented and it's not clear yet. And that's awesome because you just admitted it. So now from here, let's relabel that. Man, I get to create a 3-year vision for my firm. I get to get clear on what this world looks like, right? So in our book, and we show you how to create a vivid vision. In our program, we show you how to do this as well. But whether it's me or not, pick up the book Vivid Vision by Cameron Herold, who's coached me for 3 years, one-on-one. Like, Vivid Vision is the name of the book. Just figure out how to get your vision out and give yourself a deadline of no greater than 3 days. Get the vision out. It has to be out of your head and in the heads of your team, okay? Once that vision is clear, now we need to talk about where you're going to invest your time and your money to get to the next level. Okay? There are two areas that you need to invest your time and your money. Is everyone ready? Just do what Warren Buffett does. Warren Buffett does two things when he invests in companies. Is everyone ready? He allocates capital and he picks great managers. Like I said yesterday, Warren Buffett's in the wealth multiplier category. Okay? Warren Buffett is deploying capital, so he's spending money in assets that produce cash flow, right? And he's spending his time picking great managers and picking great companies in which to deploy that cash. Those are the two highest value tasks. Finding out where to spend your money and picking the right people on your team, because you can't do it all what? Who wants to let me know in the chat? You can't do it all what? Yourself. Unless you want to keep things the way they've been in the past, you can't do it all yourself. So, the first place that we have to spend money, right? So if we're going to deploy capital and we're going to pick great managers, and if Warren Buffett makes 20 times more than the CEO of Coca-Cola, and the CEO of Coca-Cola actually works in the business, and Warren Buffett just deployed capital once, and he makes 20 times more than the active CEO of Coca-Cola, there's something there, right? So let's go through exactly what I mean here. So you're going to deploy capital. The question is, where are you going to deploy capital? And we went through the 20-40-10 rule yesterday. Actually, I have it right here. So we went through the 20-40-10 rule. You have money, and you're going to deploy it across these three areas. You're going to spend money on leads, you're going to spend money on people, and you're going to spend money on learning, right? Because one thing's for sure, if you had all the answers right now on how to get to the next level in your firm, you would have already done it. That's why I spend $500,000 a year on coaches, because I know for sure I don't have the answers. Otherwise, I would have already reached my goals without any help from anyone, right? So 20-40-10 is where we're actually investing our money. So let's look at what happens when you spend the 20%. So the 20% goes towards leads, right? So 20% is leads. Now you got to get creative with how that 20% is going to be spent. So let's say you want to grow your firm by 1.2 million, right? That means you want to grow your firm by $100,000 a month, right? 20% of that is $20,000. I literally want you to set a goal. It's so funny. My friend Top Dog, the owner of Top Dog Law, James Helm, he was my first employee at SMB team, and now he's the biggest advertiser in Philadelphia. He and I both set goals around how much money we were going to spend on our own marketing, right? We had a goal. We couldn't wait until the first month when we could tell each other we spent $80,000 in 1 month on our own marketing, right? Because we understood the 20% part of this formula. Now, what's really cool is if that $20,000 gets you 100 leads and you turn that into 20 cases and your average case value is $5K, boom, you got your $100,000 a month, right? So the real question to ask yourself is, how do I get a 5-to-1 return on marketing? What do you think most attorneys, because they haven't gone through mental relabeling, what do you think most attorneys say about marketing? Most marketing doesn't what? Right? And then when you say that to yourself without relabeling it, what do most attorneys do? They stop. They stop. They basically go, oh, everything's a ripoff. This doesn't work, that doesn't work. And they don't get creative around how to get a 5-to-1 ROI, right? Your goal, I want everyone to write this down. Your goal is to find either a partner or to do it yourself, but your freaking goal is to find a way to get a 5-to-1 return on every dollar that you spend on your marketing. And it ain't going to be perfect. Okay, if anyone had a magic bullet, they'd own the biggest company in the whole legal space. There is no magic bullet. There's principles, but there is no magic bullet. So learning those principles is your absolute battle cry. Because when you spend money on leads buy you revenue. The way you grow your revenue is by trading money for leads and then buying revenue and figuring out that 5-to-1. Does a 5-to-1 return require a great intake process, yes or no? Does a 5-to-1 return require your firm having great 5-star reviews on Google, yes or no? Right? Yes, all this stuff ties in. Does a 5-to-1 return tie into the average amount of revenue that you collect per case? Yes or no? It's not all about the marketing. It's about the overall big picture that you need as the CEO or owner of your practice. You need to brainstorm on this stuff because it's possible. Otherwise, we wouldn't have 90 firms who doubled their revenues in less than 1 year if it wasn't possible, right? So it just comes down to the methodology that you're following. So let's talk about this because the inception of all of this starts with you investing in your firm's growth. So let's say you did spend this, and keep in mind, you're not going to spend all the $20,000 right off the bat. Like I said yesterday, maybe you start at around half of that. Maybe you experiment with spending $10,000 on marketing, right? Most people don't succeed at marketing because they think spending like, oh, I spent $500 on Avo or something like that. Oh, it didn't work. Dude, anything you go all in on will work. Can everyone please write this down? You're not going to find success in your marketing dabbling or tiptoeing or getting your feet wet in the water. You burn the ships. Okay, the reason these events work for us is we burn the ships. We spent $500,000 promoting this event, putting this event on, and we've received like $20,000 in ticket sales from this event, right? We are $480,000 in the hole from this event right now. That's called commitment, right? We didn't wait for it to work, right? We didn't go, we'll stop promoting the event. We'll call it off if it doesn't work. There is no such thing as doesn't work. Doesn't work basically means that you gave up on something, right? There is no such thing. It doesn't work. You keep learning. You learn what piece of it didn't work and you shave that away and then you double down on the piece that did work in every platform, right? So let's say that we do this. I can hear what everyone's saying. I don't have the what to invest in my firm. This is another mental relabeling. I don't have the what to invest in my firm's growth, right? All right, well, let's talk about that. 87% of millionaires are self-made. What does that mean? I think we went through this yesterday, right? So the first thing is that let's say you were to just start spending $20,000 a month on your own firm's growth, right? Well, now this may be an actual thing. Does anyone have no ability, yes or no, does your credit card allow you to spend more than $20,000 on it, yes or no? Okay. If you're answering no to this, right, then you got to get a different credit card or you got to get multiple credit cards. Because most credit cards should allow you to spend $20,000 on them. So the first thing to look at is, do I actually not have the money? Right? The second thing is, the second thing to look at, right, if you're looking at a credit card, is am I really worried about not having the money or am I worried about the time delay of return. So let me ask everyone a question. If I had a contract that guaranteed you $100,000 in 30 days, would you spend $20,000 today to get guaranteed in 30 days $100,000? Would you be able to find the money, yes or no? Or would you just let that $100,000 go to someone else? I see a lot of yeses. Okay. Would you find the money? Yes or no? Okay. So everyone here is saying yes, I'd figure it out, right? So notice this is the whole mental relabeling process. You came into this conversation saying you don't have the money, and now I just guaranteed you $100,000. And what did everyone just say? Yes or no that they had the money? Yes or no? What did you just see in the chat with me right now? You see yeses in the chat, right? So it's not that you don't have the money, it's that you don't have faith in the outcome. Everyone just understand what I said? You don't believe it's going to what? Who wants to let me know? You don't believe it's gonna work, right? And that belief brings us back to all the mindset stuff we talked about yesterday, right? So where do you spend your time and money in investing in your practice? Well, you need to spend a lot of time talking yourself into the fact that this is going to work. I have no other choice. I have no other choice but to do this, to invest in my practice. Everyone with me on this? The competitor who's beating you is probably just a little bit more belief than you. The person who's less experienced than you that's stealing your cases, that newer attorney that came out of nowhere in your market, yeah, that person probably just has a little bit more faith in the outcome. Because what? Credit cards give you what? A 20%, let's say it's 20% interest on a credit card. Would you rather get a 500% return, or would you rather focus on how to prevent 20% interest? What do you think a smart investor would focus on, the 500 or the 20? What would a smart person focus on? How to conserve the 20% or how to get the 500%, right? Let's say you did a line of credit, right? And this sounds funny, but we've had multiple PI lawyers that we work with get lines of credit, right? And I recommend this because otherwise your PI lawyers make these excuses. Oh, I got to wait until X settles. No, dude, time is now. You need to go into debt to become a business owner, or you got to wait like 5 years for your first batch to settle, right? That's the whole profit first model, and you can follow that model. That's not what this event promised you, though. It's the Law Firm Growth what Bootcamp? Acceleration Bootcamp. This isn't about slow growth or profit first or wait until Fantasy Isle when the money is all there, which never happens, by the way. That's an excuse to not invest in your firm. Let's say you get a line of credit, and over 2 years, that's 20% as well, right? So are you going to focus on the 500% or are you going to focus on the 20%, right? So the money is there. If you're the true investor in your firm, you know the money is there. The question is, do you have faith in the outcome? So this is why we talk about what's called Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs, right? So if you're going to invest all this money into buying revenue, right, we have to understand where the highest value of spending our time actually is within that, right? So just like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you have your survival needs, you have your relational needs, you have your esteem, and you have your self-transcendence, which is, enlightenment, as we'll call it, which is always a striving. You never really arrive there. But this basically shows you that until your lower level needs are met, it's hard to, spend all of your time up here when you're not surviving, right? So to survive in your firm, the survival marketing is Rainmaker. We talked about this yesterday. Yes or no? Does everyone remember this? Okay, survival, relational, esteem, self-transcendence. Survival, relational, esteem, self-transcendence. Rainmaker is your survival marketing. Right? Okay, check. Let's move on from that as fast as we can because that's the lowest level of value, right? That's your word of mouth, which is what most, 90% of firms depend on. Literally one source of leads, which is not scalable. And if you only depend on the survival, you're going to design your practice around whatever referrals come in. And then that's what prevents you from creating a scalable practice. When you get to the next level of need in marketing, this is what we call the demand phase. This is where you create your first scalable lead generation process. So we advise this is PPC, which includes local services ads, combined with retargeting, combined with local SEO, right? And making sure that anything technical is handled by someone else, right? If you just get these things down, local PPC, meaning Google ads and local services ads set up in a way that's the right methodology, which Andy's going to go through next. Combine that with a local maps-focused SEO strategy, so you're showing up high on Google Maps when people are searching for your practice area locally. You're retargeting this high-intent traffic on Google through social media, so you're following people around on the internet after they engage with your demand traffic, and then you're taking anything technical and you're outsourcing that. This is what we call the incremental right here, okay? So this is really, if you're doing this yourself, like, can anyone think of something better to do during a weekday than writing your own blog posts, writing your own Google ads, and managing the technical infrastructure of your Google ads? Yes or no? Can you think of anything better to do than that? I'm pretty sure this is a group of very smart attorneys, right? So we always say to outsource incremental, outsource these incremental tasks, right? So that you can embrace exponential tasks. So you actually don't want to spend your time doing these things. You do want to spend your time setting up the strategy for these things with someone, but you don't want to do these things yourself, right? So that you then can get to the higher level area, which is awareness, right? So you want someone else to handle this so you can focus on being the face of your law firm. You want to be that trusted brand, that face that people learn to trust in your market, right? So you want to spend a lot of your time there, going on other people's podcasts, doing offline, marketing, scaling your Facebook ads so that everybody in your market knows who you are, and you're putting out valuable content, valuable YouTube videos. You want to be seen everywhere. And when you stick through this long enough, you get to the highest level, which is, again, what we said yesterday, omnipresence. This is where you are the go-to choice in your market. How many of you want to be the lawyer in your market rather than a lawyer? Put the word the, all caps, in the chat if you want to be the lawyer in your market, not a lawyer in your market, right? So you have to spend your time up here, and you have to find the right strategy and the right partner to execute down here. And you have to stop having the firm being dependent on you as the rainmaker. It's not scalable. Okay? So, you want to invest your time learning about this, because this is how you get that 5-to-1. You as the CEO of your practice, I've interviewed arguably more 9-figure attorneys than anyone else on my 3-year talk show that I did. what do you think all of them are obsessed with? Do you think they just abdicate their marketing? They just cross their fingers, hire a marketing agency and go, well, are they going to grow my firm? Are they going to grow my firm? Maybe, please. Are they going to grow my firm? Yes or no? Do you think that's how they think? Or do you think they're complete control freaks, constantly learning about marketing? What do you think, option A or B? Like, they are probably spending more time educating themselves on marketing than they are the law. Love it or hate it, these are the people stealing your cases. So if you're a good attorney, if you're great at what you do, you have to learn marketing in order to get those cases away from the bad competitors in your market who are going to steal your cases. Right? So once we spend, I said where we're spending our time and money, right? Once we get that extra 100K a month in revenue, right? Once we get that extra 100K a month in revenue, we're then buying our time back through the 40%, right? People. Again, Warren Buffett trades resources and picks great managers. This is where you pick great managers. But the job market's hard. I can't find attorneys. I can't right? So think about this. If you are bringing in an extra $100,000 a month in revenue, does hiring people cost you money, yes or no? Trick question. No. Hiring people is an investment, just like marketing, right? Like, you could bring on these extra 20 cases a month and do all the work yourself, but is it worth it if your head's spinning off to grow your firm? No, right? So hiring people is what gives you freedom, and the quality of those people that you hire, right? The quality of those people that you hire, you want to hire A players, right? The quality of those people will determine the quality of life that you get from your law firm. Am I speaking some truth right now? Give me some truth in the comments right now. If you hire low quality people, get ready to have a low quality of life. Get ready to have to micromanage them. Get ready to not trust them, right? So you have this 100K, you've now subtracted out 40, right? You've subtracted out your 20K from what you spent on marketing. That's 60K in expenses, right? And let's not forget about the next one, which is the 10% on answers, right? How are you going to know how to hire the right people? How are you going to know how to get a 5-to-1 return on your marketing? You have two options. You can learn through trial and error, or you can learn through other people's mistakes. What do you think is the fastest way to get progress? A or B? Trial and error, A. B, other people's mistakes, right? Like, did you just become a lawyer through osmosis? Did you have earplugs in through all law school and then bing, now I'm a lawyer. Let's learn on the job, right? So no, 10% is answers, right? It's your learning budget. So even if you pull out your 20%, your 40, and your 10, we combine these three together, 70%, right? Your firm can still be operating at, if you take out 10% of that as overhead, you're still a 20% profit firm, right? Right? So your goal is to create your firm, to turn your firm into a business. A business is a commercial profitable enterprise that works without you, that produces cash flow, right? And that cash flow comes from leads plus people plus learning, right? And if your business produces cash flow with or without your time input, you have freedom, right? So where do you invest your time and where do you invest your money? You invest it in this formula, in the 20-40-10 rule, right? And the only reason you won't do it is why? You don't have faith in the what? Let me go over here real quick. You don't have faith in the outcome. So anytime you're not investing in your firm, Don't tell yourself you don't have the money. Tell yourself, I don't have faith in the outcome. And you're going to relabel that, right, through mental relabeling, and you're going to tell yourself, no, I don't have faith in the outcome, and now I'm going to find out how to get faith in the outcome. The bottom line is this. You have to invest before you're ready at all phases of growth. There will never be a time where there's going to be a lump sum of money in your bank account and it's the perfect time to invest it. There is never the perfect time, right? The only perfect time is now, right? When you increase your leads, it's going to force you to delegate. That's a good thing. When you can't handle all the case yourself, you can't handle all the intake yourself, that's an amazing thing to be forced to delegate. That's why I always recommend increasing leads first, because it forces you to go, I can't do all this myself, which then forces you to hire. Everyone just catch what I said? You want to force yourself to delegate. You want to outsource the incremental and embrace the exponential. You want to get everything incremental, the low value tasks off your plate, the survival tasks, so that you can embrace the exponential tasks in your marketing, but also in your leadership. And the last big takeaway is always remember, your learning budget creates your ROI. You can spend all this money on marketing, you can spend all this money on people, but if you don't know how to manage the people, if you don't know how to work with your marketing company and be smart enough to be in the room on your marketing, you're not going to get the ROI that you want. And I know this is the most important investment that I make, is the percent of my income that I reinvest in getting answers and learning.